The Galactic Council had made it abundantly clear. Humans were not to be left unsupervised with juveniles of predator species. It wasn't a law, exactly, but more of a strongly worded suggestion backed by 3 centuries of diplomatic incidents. Humans had a peculiar talent for turning apex predators into something the galaxy hadn't quite figured out how to classify yet. Lena Ward didn't care much for the Council's suggestions. She stood in the observation dome of Station Cuthera, watching the starfield rotate slowly beyond the reinforced glass. Behind her, the chaos was reaching its usual afternoon crescendo. 7 Raxian cubs, each one capable of crushing steel with their bare claws by age 10, were engaged in what could generously be called structured playtime. In reality, it looked more like a small-scale war. "Corvi, if you bite Thax's tail one more time, I'm taking away dessert privileges," Lena said without turning around. The largest of the cubs, a rust-colored female with amber eyes and far too many teeth, froze mid-lunge. "But he started it!" "I don't care who started it. I'm finishing it." Lena turned, arms crossed, and fixed Corvi with what the cubs had come to call the look. It wasn't threatening humans couldn't threaten a Vraxian, not physically, but it carried something worse. Disappointment. Corvi's ears flattened against her skull. She released Thax's tail and mumbled something that might have been an apology. "What do we say?" Lena prompted. "Thank you," Corvi muttered, though no gift had been given, no favor exchanged. Lena's face softened, and she smiled. That was the trigger. "Thank you," Corvi bellowed, loud enough to rattle the observation glass. The other 6 cubs immediately joined in. A discordant chorus of roars and shrieks that translated roughly to gratitude but sounded more like a battle cry. Lena sighed, but she was still smiling. "You're all going to give me a headache." The Vraxian matriarch, Shrelka, watched from the doorway with what might have been amusement. It was hard to tell with a species that had 3 rows of teeth and no lips to speak of. "Your methods remain unconventional, Miss Ward. They work, don't they?" Lena gestured to the cubs, who had now settled into something resembling calm. Corvi was even helping Thax untangle his tail from the climbing apparatus. "They do," Shrelka admitted, stepping into the room. Her claws clicked against the metal floor, each step a reminder of the power coiled in her massive frame. "But I confess, I do not understand why. We have raised Vraxian young for millennia. We understand dominance, hierarchy, the hunt. You understand none of these things, yet they obey you." Lena crouched down as Corvi bounded over, the cub's weight nearly knocking her flat. "That's because I'm not trying to dominate them. I'm teaching them something else." "What?" "That strength isn't just about claws and teeth." Lena scratched behind Corvi's ear, and the cub's rear leg thumped against the floor in contentment. "It's about knowing when not to use them." Shrelka's head tilted, a gesture of confusion. This gentleness, this thank you, these are prey behaviors, weakness." "No," Lena said firmly. "They're pack behaviors. Community behaviors. You can't have a civilization without them." The matriarch was silent for a long moment. In Vraxian culture, silence was a challenge, a prelude to violence. But Shrelka had spent enough time around humans to know they used it differently. They used it to think. "The Council fears you," Shrelka said finally. "They fear all humans. Do you know why?" Lena looked up, still holding Corvi close. "Because we're crazy enough to hug things that can kill us?" "Because you are prey that refuses to be prey." Shrelka's voice carried something that might have been respect. "Every species in the galaxy falls into one of 2 categories: predator or prey. The predators conquer. The prey submit or hide. But humans? You looked at the galaxy's most dangerous creatures and said, 'I can teach them manners.'" Corvi chose that moment to lick Lena's face with a tongue the size of a dinner plate. Lena laughed, pushing the massive head away. Okay, I get it. You're a good girl. Thank you." Corvi roared again, and again the other cubs joined in. Shrelka watched the display with what Lena had learned to recognize as the Vraxian equivalent of bewilderment. When they are grown, they will be warriors, commanders, leaders of packs. And they will shout "thank you" on battlefields because a human woman smiled at them when they were young. Is that a problem? Lena asked. "I do not know," Shrelka admitted. "Ask me in 20 years when Corvi leads her first fleet and terrifies the enemy by being polite." Lena grinned. "Sounds perfect to me." As if on cue, Corvi headbutted Lena's shoulder gently, by Vraxian standards, though it still nearly knocked her over. Play now? After you clean up your mess, Lena said, pointing to the scattered training equipment and shredded cushions that littered the room. Corvy's ears drooped. But, no buts. You made the mess, you clean it up. That's the rule. For a moment, Lena thought she might have pushed too far. Corvy was young, but she was still a predator, still bred for dominance. Asking her to perform menial tasks went against every instinct. Then Corvy sighed, a sound like steam escaping from a pressure valve, and began picking up the debris with her claws. The other cubs followed suit without being asked. Shrelka's mandibles clicked together, a sound of pure astonishment. Impossible, not impossible, Lena said quietly. Just human. Later, after the cubs had been returned to their dens and the station had settled into its night cycle, Lena sat alone in the observation dome. She pulled up a message on her datapad, another warning from the Galactic Council about inappropriate socialization, techniques, and potential long-term psychological damage. She deleted it without reading past the first paragraph. Out in the corridors, she could hear Corvy's voice echoing through the vents, practicing her words. Thank you, thank you, thank you, over and over, like a mantra, like a prayer. Lena smiled. The galaxy had spent millennia dividing itself into predator and prey, strong and weak, dominant and submissive. Humans had looked at those categories and decided they were boring. So they'd invented new ones, kind and cruel, generous and selfish, polite and rude. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very stubborn, you could teach a predator cub that the strongest thing you could ever do was say thank you. Even if she did shout it loud enough to crack glass.